I try to stand up straight, but then.
Hi, and welcome to Talking with Giants. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Thanks for joining us here today. We're excited to have you. Now, I like starting these shows the exact same way every time. That's with my pre-event prayer. Lord, allow the words that I share today to positively impact 100% of the lives in this audience one way, shape, or form. Only you know who you sent here to hear this message. Allow me to do the best I can to deliver that message. Be a vehicle and of service to you. See, that's all I can ever control is a high intention and a low attachment. A high intention of imparting something good and a low attachment as to what that might mean for you. So hopefully there's some nuggets here today. I know you will because my guest is a great friend. Now, Howard Berg is the world's fastest speed reader, Guinness Book of World Record, cutting edge learning, accelerated learning techniques, 25,000 words a minute, and can write 100 words a minute. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Majored in biology at the State University in New York and basically completed a 4-year psychology program in 1 year because of accelerated learning. He's a spokesperson for Sony, for the Sony e-reader with Justin Timberlake and Peyton Manning and Amy Sedaris. He's been on Fox News and Fox Business News. In fact, Howard read the American Health Care Act in 51 minutes live on Neil Cavuto's program. And quite frankly, I think he was the only one that read it at that point. Everybody was calling him. He's been appeared on 1,100 radio and television shows. Neil Cavuto, Jon Stewart, Live with Regis, and now Talking with Giants. So please welcome my good friend, Howard Berg.
It's always a pleasure to work with you.
You know, we've done a lot together, and I'm always amazed when I'm with you because of what you bring to the table every time. So how did you... Nothing, not even a book.
I got cards.
So how did you get started at all this?
I grew up in Brooklyn, and if you ever saw the movie Goodfellas, I grew up in the neighborhood where that movie was filmed. They weren't very nice, and I discovered at a very early age the safest place in my neighborhood was the library. Gang kids treat libraries like vampires treat churches. They don't go there. So I read a lot. By the time I was 11, I had college reading. And then I went to the State University of New York, Binghamton, majored in bio. In my junior year, I got interested in the brain. How does it work? And there's an area of biology called psychobiology. Not psychotic biology, but psychobiology, where you learn about how the psychology of learning through the biologist's perspective. And so I told the dean I want to do 2 majors, psych and bio. He said, you can't. You're a junior. You haven't had any courses in psychology. You have to take 6 science courses at the same time. I also had 3 jobs at the time, because no one could do that. And that's when I thought, when someone tells you you can't, you say, yes, I can. When you listen to the radio, they play a song once, and you sing the song for the rest of your life. Then you go to read a book, and the next day you don't know who wrote it and the name of the book. I said, there's got to be a way to learn things that you need the way you learn those songs. And there was. I did the 4-year program in 1 year. I took the GRE, which is the graduate school entrance exam, in biology. And in 3 nights, I read 48 books like cytology, cell physiology, biochemistry, genetics. Got 3 questions wrong. So people say, do you remember anything? I got 3 questions wrong. But then I found I could teach this. And I had kids as young as 11 taking college classes like I had. And it was really exciting to know that it wasn't just that I could do this, but I could impart the skill on to others. And I felt that was really my calling. So I don't think anyone wakes up, looks at the news and says, there's too many smart people in the world making too many good decisions. So I'd like to think if you have more knowledge and you have more understanding, you'll make better choices. And that's what I'm trying to do.
That's awesome. You know, one of the things that I know, as we've talked before, I remember when I first asked you the question, but I'm going to ask it fresh for the audience here. You must love reading.
No, I like learning. I'll give a good example. 10 years ago, my wife wanted to go to Hawaii, and I lecture on cruise ships. And they had a cruise, but they didn't want speed reading. Like, why not? It doesn't matter. What do they want? Photoshop, video, and photography. So my first answer is, I teach that, not knowing what any of it was, and I had 10 days to learn it. Figured, how hard could Photoshop be? I didn't know it takes 4 years in college. I had 10 days. So in 3 hours, I read 10 books on Photoshop, learned it. The next day, I read 10 books on photography, learned it. And the next day, I read 10 books on video, learned it. And I went there and said, please, God, let these people, you've been on cruises, you know, they have the air tanks and they're like rolling around. Like, let them be 90 years old with Kodak cameras. And what's a digital camera? That was my dream. First man comes in with a Sony $5,000 camera with a telephoto lens on it the size of my arm. I'm a photographer 38 years. I hear you're teaching photography. I'm like, okay. And the second guy comes in, I'm doing Photoshop 5 years. I hear you're an expert. And my wife's sitting in the front row and there's tears coming out of her eyes because they said if I didn't pull this off, they were going to throw us off the boat. Not in the water, but on the dock.
Back at land.
At the end of the week, they were like, how many years did it take to learn all that? I could say learned it in 3 days and 3 hours each day. That's what I love. I like knowing how to do things. Things for my business, things for my life, things for my family. And reading is the key. The skill itself isn't what you want. It's the outcome of reading, the knowledge, the understanding, the new skill sets. That's what it's about.
And what's happening in today's society with the quantity of information that's available to us? This skill in what you teach is so valuable with just the being inundated with information, right?
Information doubles every 6 months. More is printed in a week than all human history since the year 1800. Wow. And the average person reads 200 words a minute. And now you're at work and there's new laws, there's new rules, there's new regulations, there's new technology, there's marketing skills. Your core business, everything changes every few years. The time you spend learning, you don't get paid for that. But if you could cut that time in half and understand more, connect more dots, you make more money, make fewer mistakes. You have more time for what matters. 50% of the students in 4-year college drop out. 70% in 2-year college drop out. And the ones who don't take 6 years to do a 4-year degree. Well, my kids, I had a school, it was a Judeo-Christian homeschool, high school online, and my kids were doing college in 2.5 to 3 years and graduating with 3.5s, 4.0s because I taught them how to learn. And then there's the seniors. They want to stay mentally fit as they get older. Reading has been proven in the Baltimore and Seattle longitudinal studies on aging, which I read in 90 seconds 20 years ago, that 80-year-olds who read had a lower onset of dementia and Alzheimer's than those who didn't. They said the single best thing you could do to keep your brain moving and accurate and have acuity as you age is reading. So those are all really good reasons to want to learn to read faster. Ruth Lubin, 84, read 3 books in 3 hours the day after the class. She was literally the little old lady from Pasadena. I taught her at Pasadena Community College, and she was just the coolest woman. So, yeah, there's not an age restriction. My youngest student's been 8. So I'd say 8 to 84 probably fits most of the people watching right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I know your heart, and we've been out on the road. We've done a lot of seminars together, a lot of work together. And your desire is not only to obviously help the parents because of the information in their businesses and what they can do and be more productive, but you always encourage them to pass it down to give their kids a head start.
Absolutely. Can I tell you some of the kids I had?
Absolutely.
Stephen graduated University of Texas Arlington at 16, 4.0, economics degree, tough major. Finished at 15, by the way. His mother said he couldn't go to graduate school till he was old enough to drive, and you have to be 16 to drive. Made him go an extra year. Went to OU at 18 to math, did a master's in math at 18, and graduated at 19 with a 397. Brad Voller, a lot of people would know Brad. Brad was one of my students. He's done a lot of mission work around the world, and he does a lot of homeschool training. He was my student. He went to Thomas Edison and finished his 4-year degree in 6 months. By the way, if you're looking for a way to have a student go quickly through college, look at Thomas Edison. They let you clip out of 90% of your degree. So if you're going into mission work or teaching, it's a great path to take. Not for Harvard Law or medicine, but for what he wanted to do was a good path. One more, let me think his name. Oh, Micah.
I know you had the whole family, right? It was a series of kids.
Micah was 19, passed the bar in California. His 15-year-old sister's first-year law student, was the youngest person in history to pass the bar in California. His 17-year-old brother be the second youngest person in history to pass the bar in California. And his 22-year-old brother is an attorney and a flight instructor. And We have Justin. Justin was a C student, normal kid. All these kids are G. He was a C student. He became an English professor at Tarrant Community College at 22. And that's what excites me. Me reading fast is like, how many goldfish can you swallow? It's entertaining, but it doesn't do anything. It changes nothing. You and the people watching reading quicker, their kids reading quicker, and knowing what they read and understanding what they read and remembering it when they need to use it, that could change the world. And that's really what I'm interested in.
The power of this knowledge that they gain through this source, there's so many different ways I could go with this, but it's so, it's just exciting to hear that a child could get through school in 6 months to a year and a half. I mean, even if you're on the 4-year plan, a year and a half worth of payments versus 4 years of payments is a pretty significant difference. Just the fact that we could train youth to be more proactive. The other thing that happens once they gain that knowledge is they're excited and passionate about the world. They go out and do things.
Well, first of all, it doesn't take 4 years. The average 4-year degree takes 6 years. People don't know that. So my kids are doing it in 2.5. Their kids are going to do 6 if they finish. When I joined the Rotary, I'm actually the wrong pin. That was my mic.
That's right.
And I actually became the district manager for the speakers in the Dallas Rotary. And I joined to help RILA, which is the kids that they have the Rotary Youth Leadership Training. And I'm going to be working with the kids in Rotary to teach them learn skills to be leaders. And that was my passion. That's what I joined Rotary for, because they're so interested in helping kids. They have a lot of very, very good things. They're helping eliminate polio. They're giving good water projects around the world. But my passion was children. I was a teacher for 10 years in New York. I worked in a school. My interview was, teachers get killed here. Do you want the job? Well, I'm 21. I'm like, nailed it. Go home. Yeah, I got the job, Mom. Not thinking, hey, teachers get killed here. And they did. I saw 4 teachers go out on a stretcher in 10 years. It was a scary place to work. And I did it for 10 years, and they had 2% graduate. They said to the principal, I could teach them how to learn. You'll get a better outcome. He looks at me and says, it's not in the curriculum. And I'm like, how can I ruin your numbers? You got 2% success rate. So I decided to quit my job as a teacher to become an educator. I wasn't going to spend my life dumbing kids down when I could help them be smarter and more successful. And that's what I've been doing. I never look back once and regret. I love what I do. It excites me to hear from these youngsters. Of course, I like helping adults. I do companies, and I do a lot of things with professional speaking. But the kids are my passion. Being a teacher, I don't think it ever completely leaves you. You do that for 10 years. And when I see youngsters acing classes, we had a group of 11 to 15-year-olds do a 30-chapter book in lifelong developmental psych in 1 week. 15 passed the CLEP. We had them do a 28-page report on the book of Matthew, MLA style, college style, in 3 hours. And we took it to a seminary in Fort Worth because my business partner at the time was a professor there, and didn't tell the dean, these were kids, and asked them to grade the papers as a favor. And he gave 2 of them second-year graduate credit, 2 of them first-year graduate credit, and the rest got senior credit. He's like, oh, this is a graduate program. We expect better. That's when he found out the oldest youngster he graded was 15.
Wow.
These were 11-year-olds to 15. That's exciting. That's what I think every parent's dream is, and that's why I'm here, to help make people aware there really is a solution, and it's working. We did a study, a double-blind study that proved it worked for normal, average, regular people. A normal person can go 100% quicker in 4 hours for the rest of their life. That's why I'm excited.
Yeah, well, then let's get into it. Give us a tip on how to read and increase our speed.
Okay, people watching, after the show, find a book, a nonfiction book you've read. Have your kids do this too. Go to the first chapter. Read for 1 minute the way you read, and take a pencil and mark off where you finish. You can use a smartphone or watch. Just time yourself. Now go to the second chapter, and I'm going to show you the secret sauce. Start reading with your hand, going 1 line at a time, your eyes following your hand as quickly as you could comprehend. As long as you know what you're reading, keep speeding up, your eye following your hand. When you lose comprehension, it's too fast. Now you know your ceiling. Go back just enough, slow down enough So your comprehension comes back at the peak speed. And for 5 minutes, one line at a time, after 5 minutes, go back to the first chapter where you tested yourself. Test yourself a second time using your hand. And you're going to go 10, 15, maybe even 20% further. Just doing that one single step. It's the first step in the reading program. Anyone could do that. It's really easy to try.
So which hand are you moving across the page and which one turns the page?
I prefer to turn with the right because in English, books turn from right to left, and I'm rubbing with the left. Some right-handed people will find that uncomfortable. If they do, they can do it just with their right hand. I prefer using both hands if possible, but if it's that uncomfortable, then the option is don't use your left hand, use your right hand.
So what are the 3 levels of learning, and how can we take and really take this skill and adopt it and get into those levels?
First level is literal. Literal information is what's on the page, the words. Doesn't mean it's true. It's what they tell you is true. Implied information is information that's not given but expected to be common sense. So if you're reading a book and it says, the man drank a glass of water, you don't go, stop. What's a man? What's water? What's a glass? What's drinking? They had to explain all that. They couldn't write anything for anyone. So we're using our map, it's called schema, what we know already, to make sense out of what's there, and they're presuming you know something, and they're right. Sometimes that causes problems, too, because everyone's map is different, and someone may have a different experience. So if you lived on the Mississippi and read Mark Twain's Life of the Mississippi, and someone from Kyoto, Japan read the same book, it's not the same book because your experiences filter it differently. That's one reason people have trouble. The third level is inferential. That's when you get the meaning and significance of what you're reading. You know how to use it. You know why it's important. You see how it's related to other things you already know. That's the high level of learning. And my goal is to teach people how to achieve that. When we did our school, all our exams were essays. Nothing but essays. You would give a student 200 or 300 essays. One of my 10-year-olds did a 10-month biology program, a high school program in 1 week. Here's an essay. Explain the genetic code and how it works. What is ATP and how does it work? If you can answer 300 questions like that and get 4 wrong after a week, you just finished high school biology. I don't like multiple choice and fill-ins, because you don't have to know the answer. You can say, I know that word. You don't really know what the word means, and you don't understand the significance of what you're saying. So essays are very hard for you to make believe you know something. You actually have to be able to explain something and defend it. So I prefer essay tests.
That's awesome. Now, the other thing that I want to, so now we've talked a lot about children and students and doing that. How about the 5 things you need to learn to really master any business material, any situation like that?
It's not just business, it's school. I often tell people, what if I told you all you have to know is 5 things? And if you learn just these 5 things, you can get an A in anything, whether it's business or work or school. Here are the 5 things. First is vocabulary. About 80% of learning any new topic is learning the words. What words? They're bolded, they're italic, they're in strange colors or fonts, they're in a table. The author did something to that word to make it look special and different for a reason. I want you to look at it. So the vocabulary. Second thing you want to know is numbers, dates, statistics, and formula. So just we're considering that one thing. Anything with a digit or a number. What does it mean and how do you use it? The third thing you want to learn are names. Who's in your book and what did they do? Now, if you're reading a history book and it's George Washington, you know that. Don't waste time learning what you know. Learn what you don't know and need to know.
Great tip there.
Very important. People spend too much time learning what they know already, haven't got any time left to learn the new material. The fourth thing, you're looking in a nonfiction book, there are headers and subheaders. What are the 5 big takeaways, the most important points in each of those sections? And the last thing you want to look for are the questions and answers. Most people get to the end of a chapter and there's 20, 30 questions and like, I don't know this. what would happen if you read them before you read the material? Now you know the 20, 30 things the writer wants you to know when you're done. When you see one of them, what's going to happen? A light's going to go off in your head, say, that's one of the things they actually expect me to know when I'm done. You're going to pay more attention to it. You're going to focus on it. You're going to learn it, where before it's just another thing on a page. You don't know what to prioritize and learn. So I've made a lot of focus in the program on having people figure out what do they need to know. I'll give you an example. In college, you only have to know one thing. One thing. What is it? Only one thing. The answers to the questions on the test. You get every answer right, what's your grade?
100.
And if you get every answer wrong, what's your grade?
Not 100.
So if you know everything except the questions on the test, you look like an idiot, even though you may know quite a lot of data. And if you know only the answers on the test, and you don't know anything else, you get an A. So the win in school is get the answers right. So I teach people in business how to figure out what their clients and prospects will want to know at a meeting so they can anticipate the questions and know what to learn. How kids taking tests can anticipate what will be on the next exam. So when they look at their book, this looks exactly like the kind of material they like to ask on tests, and they focus on it.
That's interesting from a sales training point of view. One of the things we talk about in building presentations is always anticipate the questions you'll be asked and build in the answer into your presentation in advance. So you've now handled that. A great parallel there. So how do you find those questions?
There's a lot of ways to find them. In textbooks, it's common to see them at the end. You see a lot of questions at the end. Many books will ask questions in the narrative as you're going through it. Now, when a book doesn't ask questions, then you have to be able to make your own. And you create your own questions, what you think would be significant and important. And then you're able to ask the questions. The more experience you get with this, the more sophistication you have, the better the questions become, and the more likely those would be the questions you'd have to know anyway.
It would seem that would really train your brain on a lot of creativity too. That you could start to anticipate some of these things and look for what you need to solve later on. Kind of reminds me of even when Gretzky, they asked him, why are you so great? And he said, everybody skates to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck will be. Almost that same kind of concept. Does that make some sense?
Exactly, and I'll tell you how you could do that when reading. When you're actually reading to learn, I tell people to do three things. Skim. I'm talking using your hands, doing a 300-400 page book in 5 minutes. What you're doing is you're not learning the topic, you're learning the book. How are the chapters organized? Are there pictures? Are there charts? Are there diagrams? Are there things at the end like footnotes? Are there word lists? Is there an appendice? Have you ever been in a book and you got really confused, and when you got to the end there was an appendice? If I knew this was here 400 pages ago, I would have used this when I was so confused. Well, now you're going to know it's there, because you're basically doing a quick preview of everything coming before you get to it. So you know it's there. You don't know the specifics, but you know that picture is coming. You know that table is coming. And then when you need it, you have a map, and it tells you that there's other things you could be going to right now that could make this easier to learn. It eliminates a lot of the frustration people have. And then they turn the page, and everything they were looking for was the next page, and they didn't even realize it. They'll realize it now because they'll be previewing. So you preview, you read, and you review. And during review is when you memorize new material you need to learn and analyze things you didn't understand and have to figure out to see if you need to learn.
I've watched you do this live, and we're running down on time. It's just amazing how fast this goes. But I've seen you do this live with an audience and see them double their reading in just a matter of minutes.
Yes.
Can you give us a quick tip on that?
Well, I showed you how to use the hand. That was the first step. Let me talk about comprehension. I think that would be helpful. The secret to understanding, I think most people would agree, understanding is more important than speed, is schema. Let me give an example. I'm going to give you something with no schema. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Doesn't make any sense. I'm going to put a title on with schema, and instantly everything makes sense. Laundry, easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. When you're reading, I'm teaching people how to find the schema. You're going 2, 3, 4 times faster, but know what to look for So you're actually understanding better at the higher speed, which is why the past chairman of Evelyn Woods hired me to train his son and how to speed read. And Barry Fowler, the founder of Sylvan Learning, endorsed me because they liked that I was focused on learning, not just speed.
I think I've seen it in action, and it's so exciting to hear. In fact, this week you and I both received an email from one of our co-students that was just so excited about how well this worked. Again, we're running down on time. Now, it's been great that we've been talking about this. How do we get this in the hands of the audience?
Well, you have on your website a special link.
twgspeedreading.com.
This is important. They don't pay till after they learn the program, and only if they learn. I don't want people paying me for something they didn't get. And you get tired of going to a movie and it's not any good, or eating a meal that isn't good. Why should you pay for something that doesn't work? I set it up so it's only 4 hours. You take it, you have 4 days to pay. And the 4th day, your card gets charged. But if you send me a text or an email, for any reason you didn't like the program, it didn't work, I will not charge you. You only pay for results. I think that's the right way to run a business. It has integrity. You're getting paid because you did something you said you would do, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to double their reading speed, improve their understanding, and help their kids do better in school.
Isn't that amazing? I love the integrity that Howard brings to this program. We did this around the country, quite frankly, and took it out there. And he's offering an opportunity for people to double, triple, quadruple their reading speed, 4 hours, and then have it last a lifetime. The changes that it'll make for you and your children, reading some really good books. I can think of one good book that you might want to read a whole bunch of. See, here at Talking with Giants, what we want to do is consistently bring you the opportunity to improve your life, period. Greater knowledge gives you greater opportunity. Greater knowledge gives you comfort and peace. And having the faith in great teachers like Howard Berg is absolutely phenomenal. Howard, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Talking with Giants. See you soon.
Hi, this is Scott Schilling, your host for Talking with Giants. Recently, I discovered that somewhere around the world, a child dies every 5 seconds due to malnutrition, the lack of access to clean drinking water, or insect-borne diseases. It's a human tragedy that's so easy to prevent. In fact, when I began looking into what people like you and me can do, I discovered a company who's sending life-saving products to the world's most needy children and their communities. World Impact Solutions is dedicated to address these issues head-on. Could you join me in this mission? Simply go to wissaveslives.com and purchase any or all of the life-saving products in any quantity. World Impact Solutions will make sure that children in more than 70 countries will benefit from your generosity. I know I can count on you. World Impact Solutions makes it simple.